Story time. Let's talk about how God can completely shift our lives in ways we never see coming. This is my personal story about leaving comfort, letting go, and trusting God to lead even when you don't have it all figured out. This is my journey of quitting a six-figure dream job, letting go of what I and everyone else thought was success, and starting a new path led entirely by faith. I had landed what I and most people would call the perfect job, achieving a high position and the chance to grow even further in my organization. I had spent years working for it, studying, attending trainings, putting in long hours, sacrificing weekends, and doing whatever it took to be excellent at my job. But the reality behind the scenes was different. The stress was relentless, the leadership was draining, and I felt as if I was losing myself bit by bit. At first, I ignored it. I was living the dream, right? I had a steady income, I was able to meet personal goals, and I was doing work that looked impressive on paper. But there's a huge difference between what looks good on paper and what brings actual peace and joy. My health started to suffer. I'd lie awake at night, consumed by the pressures of the job, feeling my body and spirit breaking down under the weight of it all. I prayed for peace, for God to somehow make it easier, but things only seemed to worsen. The tipping point came on a random Thursday. After a particularly difficult meeting, I went back to my desk, sat down, and prayed. I said, "God, if this isn't where you want me, show me what to do." And just like that, a deep sense of peace washed over me. It was like God was saying, "I'll take it from here." I decided to step out in faith, leave the job, and trust that God had something better. The cost was too high. My faith, my joy, my relationship with God, all were suffering. In that moment, I felt this wave of clarity, this deep sense that God was calling me to something different. It didn't make sense in terms of the world's standards, but I knew in my spirit that God was whispering, "Let go, trust me." I was terrified. I didn't have another job lined up, and the thought of leaving behind everything I had worked for felt like I was taking a giant leap into the unknown. But here's the thing about faith. It doesn't require us to have all the answers. It just asks us to take the next step, trusting that God is already there, preparing the way. So, with a shaking hand, I submitted my notice, walked away, and left it all in God's hands. The days that followed were not easy. I wrestled with doubt, questioning if I'd made the right decision. But in those moments of fear, God showed up in ways I never could have expected. He placed new desires on my heart and opened doors I hadn't even thought about. One night, I felt this nudge to share my experiences, not the polished look at my life version, but the real raw stories of struggle, growth, and faith. Because I'm quite shy, I started creating faceless content to you all, just speaking from my heart and my years of journaling, sharing my story and what God was teaching me, sharing the struggles, the highs, the lows, and all the ways God has come through for me. And let me tell you, I'm still learning and growing every single day. Little by little, people started connecting with my journey. From the comments and likes left, I see that I've had somewhat of an impact on persons. I had no idea that God could use my pain, my confusion, and my journey to impact others. I didn't need a six-figure job to find purpose. God used me just as I was, right in the middle of my story, to help others in theirs. Today, I'm building something new. Not just a career, but a life rooted in purpose and faith. And I'm here to remind you that God doesn't waste our pain, our experiences, or even our mistakes. If you're feeling stuck, exhausted, or like something has to change, trust that He's calling you to something deeper, something greater than you could imagine. Leaving that job was the hardest decision I ever made, but it opened the door for a life that's aligned with God's calling, not just my own goals. Sometimes we have to let go of what's in our hands so God can place something new in them. We might not understand it, but when we let Him lead, He'll guide us to where we're truly meant to be. Remember that sometimes stepping out in faith leads us to places we never even dreamed were possible. Until next time, take care.